Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, this adorable Little Gem Spruce is going to get a little pot. It's a Friday night, another work week done. Got some workshops tomorrow with my friends out at Otten Brothers on the west part of the metro of the Twin Cities in Minnesota. Gonna have about 15 or so people at the workshop tomorrow. But today, this evening, as the sun is setting, we've got a nice little spotlight on the Little Gem Spruce right now. We're gonna go ahead and get this thing into a pot with some bonsai soil. So I started this one just a few short months ago. I believe we went to the cabin to work on this for a little bit.
Super cool. Now, not the best time of year for me to do anything major with this. I'm not going to repot it today. I want to see where the trunk meets the root system, take a little bit of the soil up on top so I can kind of see the future of this tree. And we're just going to go ahead, just get rid of a little bit of the top layer of this guy right here so I can see where the roots are starting and see if I can see the very beginning view of possible fronts to this tree and how the trunk of this tree is working. Now, a tree with such dense foliage, we're probably going to run into a lot of dead stuff on the inside. And so what I could do in here, and what I expected I would run into, is a lot of this. A lot of dry, no more light in here, branches that are starting to die off, and we can clean that up. Sticking the chopstick through the first subdivision of branching here, there's so much dead stuff in there, it's almost like going through soil. There, now there's a branch that was dead down here, but look at all the nice foliage I took off, and we created a little hole right there. So now I have to start being really careful not to take too much off. So there is part of the underside of that tree right there. And then we can come over to this side. We got some views under there as well. And it's got good moisture. It's fairly moist soil, so I'll give it a water when I get home tonight. I'm just going back. This is just a day trip. There are very few roots affected by this cleaning up of the tree.
So as I start to chop away at the soil, starting from the top to kind of see what kind of roots I have here, I'm thinking about a recent episode I saw from my friend Nigel Saunders over at the Bonsai Zone. And he brought up the concept of bare rooting pine trees, conifers, maybe pines specifically. So Nigel shared in that episode that he's bare rooted his pines for almost 30 years, or maybe now over 30 years. And his pines and his conifers have been doing fine. His estimations are that could be one of those bonsai myths. Did you watch that episode from Nigel Saunders on the Bonsai Zone? If you have, I'd love your thoughts on that. I didn't read all the comments if anybody commented about that on that episode. But comment down below, would you? What do you think about this pines and not bare rooting? A lot of people with pines feel that you don't want to destroy too much of the mycorrhiza that helps the tree to do better, provide more nutrients with the intricate pathways of the mycorrhiza fungi. But Nigel, I think not only does he bare root his trees, but Nigel, do you also, splash around in the pond and wash out all the roots? I don't know. I'm not going to do that to this tree. I'm going to leave some of the nutrients in here. A Little Gem Spruce is what we got today. And the Little Gem Spruce has some very little foliage. Quite phenomenal. I think an amazing, I hope, species for the bonsai world. Now, a cultivar for many other spruces, I'm sure. There's white spruces, black spruces. The black spruces in northern Minnesota grow in the bogs. They don't backbud tremendously well, if they do at all, on old wood. Close to the branches of the trees that are remaining, yes, you might get some more buds, I've noticed. up towards the top where more of the energy is. But I've not seen a lot of buds back down on the trunk too very far. So once they start getting tall, you're kind of in trouble. So you have to grow those things from the beginning. And that's kind of why it's nice to have a tree from seed or from a cutting or from just young at the nursery. Then you can keep control of that tree from the very beginning. I fell in love with this tree when I saw it out at my friends at Otten Brothers. This was an Otten Brothers tree. And Little Gem Spruce. That little tiny foliage. Just super tiny. And this one is boatloaded full of buds. There are so many buds on this thing. Can't wait to see how many are going to start opening up here pretty soon. They are on the verge. This was kept in the cold frame. Or maybe I kept it outside this winter because it was in a nursery pot. I don't recall. I brought in a cold frame a couple weeks ago because I knew I wanted to start working on it. And now I'm going to keep it in, or not the cold frame, I mean the PSGF, where we're filming today. I'm going to keep it in here now because we are going to get some cold temps. And every time you repot in the spring, if you get some cold temps down below freezing again, we don't want those roots to be sensitive. Now, no white tips. There's no growth in here. Good time to repot. This thing is ready to wake up soon, but it's not woken up yet. It's a beautiful 65 degrees in the PSGF. We are loving life. And we don't need all these roots. So right off the get-go, I'm going to go ahead and trim some of these up. Looks like we've got a bulk of the soil out of here. And we have a tree that we have to look at. Got a big old thick branch over here. Right there. There's the back side. A couple of branches there. There's like 3. We'd want to maybe go down to 2 there to not bulge. Nice thick trunk on this one. There's another close branch right there and there. And there's 3, 1, 2, 3 right there. That one goes more up in the air. This one looks like it's a little dried up. I don't like that one right there anyway. Let's get rid of that one. There we go. So what to do with this guy? This weak branch doesn't look good to me. It was pretty dry. This one's pretty dry. Blocking the view over here. This splits off into 2. It's one of those trees that I worried having outside. I think I did have this one outside because of the fact we've had such a mild winter. No snow insulating it. But then if it dried up without any snow, and if we had enough of that warm weather, did it dry up and start to, not get enough moisture like I wasn't watering the trees? Because, it's winter time. So you have to make sure you're paying attention. So a Little Gem Spruce. Again, all kinds of great foliage up there still. A lot of buds in there. Just kind of getting this into some kind of preliminary shape, like what am I going to keep? There's a big chunk of roots that want to go this way. One big root over this way. This one, there's a root right here that goes down underneath. But I think I'm going to go ahead and get some of these roots lower so we can be flat. So So down here in the roots section, as I peel away some more of the dirt, there's a bendy root that's coming out this way and curving that way. Let me see if I can get that one cut off. See that guy right there? Yeah, that was curving under. We'll leave the other ones intact for now. Yeah, and they're coming from underneath, so. I just recently took the Dave Severson larch out of this beautiful bronze looking pot. I think this will be a really nice pot for this tree. Fits in there really well. Got room for the tree to grow. And you notice this tree, the way it's growing, it looks a lot more like a deciduous tree than a pine tree. We don't have that conical shape at all. It's kind of that, it had a rounded canopy at first, and I've gotten rid of some branches, but we have this big primary branch coming off to the right, a couple branches up here. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting tree. Very interesting tree. But it's kind of fun. I like the unique look of it, and I just want to get it in a pot and then see if we can get a little early pre-shape on it, but then just let it grow for the season and see what happens. Let's get some soil and secure this into this pot. I can't tell if that's the front or if that's the front, but I kind of like the back branch on this one if this is the front. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. This is one of those repotting jobs where there's only 2 main drain holes and no wire holes. And I'm going to secure this one because it's a little bit top heavy. But to secure this one, I had to put all the wires into the same 2 holes, and so they don't wrap around the tree as well. So I'm going to go actually front to front and back to back on this one. And I put more soil in here so I would not damage as many roots. So some people don't like wiring trees in for the chance of it damaging roots. And that makes total sense. And we want to try to protect our roots and make them as pristine as possible. The reason I'm not too worried about it when I put some more rocks in here is the wire is going to really smoosh down on the rocks, which also could smoosh down on the roots. Don't get me wrong. And it isn't ideal. But it's going to hold this tree in place. And so I won't have to worry about it shifting around, getting air pockets down there, in case any critters decide to play with this guy. And now the other thing I'm also not terribly concerned about when I repot this tree right now is I am nowhere close to a beginning design of this tree, to be honest, much less or much more a finished potted angle. So do I want it to look like I hope it's going to look? Well, sure. I think that's the side I like. Do I want it to look like I want it to look down the road? Of course I do. It's a rectangle pot that will be changing out in about 2 years. I'll worry about it when I get it to that next pot. In the interim, this positioning is going to be just fine. And will I smash some of the roots? Inevitably a little bit, but I don't imagine exposed roots at this time for this tree. And therein lies our spruce, our Little Gem Spruce. So now we'll make some cuts to some of these branches, let some light get in here, and see where this thing is going to take off to in the future. Now there's a lot of stuff out front here, so that's a little bit of disconcerting there. I'm going to go ahead and just cut that branch off. Where there were 3, there's now 2. Trying to make this a little bit less bulky up top. There we go. We just thinned that out a little bit. We'll let the sunlight get in there. And we'll see how this tree reacts. So again, I'm just going to come in here and thin out some of these branches. Where there's 3, goes down to 2, cutting off a couple to open up the space a little bit more. Then from down lower, we can actually see the tree a little bit better. So I'll keep putzing away for a little bit. I moved in a bit closer for you today to show you this tree. Now this is such a small, fine, look at how small that foliage is. My finger there. And I just wanted to show you here that all these branches have buds. So here's a branch right here that has 1, 2, 3 buds at the tip. You go back deeper and there's a couple of buds down here. Right here. Here's a good branch example for you. Bud, 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 bud. All kinds of buds. Multiple layers of buds. This branch over here, we've got our 3 tip buds up here. 1, 2, 3. And then we've got on this branch, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All kinds of buds all the way down these branches. So when I'm cutting these branches, I can cut this whole branch off for these 2 branches, but I can also cut off right here because there's buds down below. Leaving a little bit for dieback because this is a new species for me and I want to see how much green we can leave on this tree and not kill a branch. So you have to be careful in the beginning stages when you're making those kind of early cuts with a new tree. So I'll pull back now. I'll continue to do a little bit of cleaning here. You can see this section right here is really thick. So let's go ahead and see if we can try to thin that out just a little bit. Now this one's going up in the air, so let's just get that one out. This one looks like it's dying back a little bit. But we've got a really thick branch in here, and I can't even tell where that branch is going. It splits right there into 2. There you go. So if I go in here and take this middle one out, right there, now I've thinned this out. Now it's not as thick, and the sun can get in here and reach in here a little bit better. But it's so thick I can't even see what I'm cutting in regards to a future shape of this tree. But there's the main branch right there. You can see that branch between my fingers and the scissors. There's the main branch. See that? So I cut that right there for a little bit of gap right there. Now that little section is just a little bit more free for the sun to hit. And again, I can clip all of these, the tips off to get some of these lower branches to grow. But this is still super duper thick here. Maybe I get rid of this guy right there. So we got this one trying to get tall, this one over here trying to get tall, competing with these. There's a lot going on over here. Maybe I'll even take that one off. Now we can see that branch a little bit better. Then down here, there's some lower ones, but there's also the main branch right here. I think the main branch, I'm going to get rid of this thickness right here and just cut all that off. Now I not only have this gap, but I have this gap right here. And again, pick a couple of branches to cut off. Sometimes I cut off for length, sometimes I cut up for direction. And now that's lower and a little bit thinner, and we're going to see how it responds right there. Lower down and real thin in here. It used to be real thick. We got rid of a whole bunch of branches and we're in better shape. This one looks a little bit sticking out now, big and thick. We'll just cut that right off. And there's kind of a future pad possibly for this tree. We continue the work of thinning out. Where there's 2, we cut down to 3. Where there's a really big thick tip, a lot of times the thicks are big and bulky. Look at that tip right there. If I cut that tip off right there, now we've got this, and all those branches right there. So we just don't need that one. And I can even shorten this one a little bit more. And where does that split in here? It splits way in here. This one's kind of crowded out. We can cut that one off. And now I've got this side of the branch right here, and I got this side of the branch over here with a split down here and here. You see that goes down, right? So where that goes down, let's get rid of that one right there. We want to see a little bit of separation there between that branch and this top branch, if we can. Just a little bit of separation there. And again, this is a really bulky tip right here. This is super bulky right there. I cut that tip off. Now I've got all these branches out here that can hopefully take over for that. Cut that one going up. I'll even cut this one going to the front. We've got this branch over here. We've got, so this has, actually I'm going to cut this back even further where it splits to 2 back there, and now we have this split here and here. And later on in the life, maybe we can wire these into place. This one's growing kind of towards the tree. We get rid of that maybe later on in the next iteration. Is that a mosquito right there flying by my tools? Holy cow, I don't want a mosquito yet. Is it mosquito season? Make that a little bit thinner there. There's that patch we worked on before. Now it's separated a little bit from this pad. And these two are kind of getting a little bit separated. And we're just going to get more light in here. We just thin that out. We'll keep doing that. Here is our beautiful Little Gem Spruce in the nice pot from Dave Severson. And let's give it a spin for you here. We're going to move it to the right a little bit. Nice dimension to this tree. This is kind of a fun angle right in here with a little gap right there right now. You can see the tree though and see that trunk going up this way too a little bit. And then we come back to the front. So what a nice little tree. A little bit more, again, that broom, kind of almost a flat top broom style tree versus a conical shape. But if we get this thing growing up like up here, we could almost have that conical shape and make it a little off so it's not so symmetrical. But there's the Little Gem Spruce all tidied up. I tell you, there's nothing better than being in the PSGF on a beautiful pre-spring evening. When the weekend's kicking off, it is Friday night, the sun is just about to go down, and I got another tree in a pot. We've got this beautiful Little Gem Spruce all tidied up and ready to go. We'll put this here over on some space on the shelf and let it do its thing for the spring. Hey, that's going to do it for another one. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we'll catch you on the next one.